In writing this video, I came up with several different titles. Don't listen to Steve, the manufacturer knows best, and then the one I've used, 5 things you should know about motorcycle maintenance. Hello and welcome back to Biker Stuff. Today I'm going to discuss Steve. You know Steve, he lives near you. He comes over most weekends and tells you the right way to do things on your bike, your mower and your fish pond. Everyone knows a Steve. He wears a baseball cap, probably has a goatee beard and thinks everyone loves him as much as he does. Before we get on with tearing Steve's ideas to pieces, can I ask you, if you haven't already, that you subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications when there is more from Biker Stuff. If you like this video, please share it. I've not had a long session for a while, so sit back and enjoy. I'm going to discuss some of the things Steve will have told you and hopefully prevent you from damaging your bike, hurting yourself or drowning your fish. Maybe not the last one. Let me start with engine oil. Steve says he checks his oil when the engine is cold, but you need to check it with the engine warm. Start it up and run for a few minutes, then let it stand for a minute or two to get the oil back into the sump. Measure your oil with the bike upright, either on the centre stand or with someone holding it. You'll either have a window on the left hand side cover or a dipstick on the end of the oil filler. Also found on the right hand side cover. When it comes to changing the oil, you should warm the engine, not hot. Don't do as Steve does and drain it as soon as you've got home from a ride. You'll only burn or scald yourself. Because oil thins when it's warm, it will pour out of the engine easier. Always change the filter when you change the oil. You can buy special oil trays, but an old 5-litre plastic bottle with the side cut open is a cheap alternative. Something like this. But do check how much oil your bike takes first. You don't want to try putting more oil in than the bottle can take. In the UK, 10W40 is the best choice for our environment for general road use, and if you can afford it, buy fully synthetic, as it is the best you can get. I've done a talk on oil before, so I won't go into it again. I'll pop a link up here for you. Changing your coolant. Never do it the way Steve says with a hot engine. He will tell you it opens up a thermostat and that you should have a rag over the radiator cap so that you don't scald yourself. No, do it with the engine cold. Get a good sized tub that will hold about 5 litres. Again, a plastic bottle is good with the side cut open. It's great. Your engine will hold about 2 litres of water coolant mix. Take off the radiator cap to release any vacuum, then undo the drain bolt that is on or near the pump. Also take off the hose that goes from the bottom of the expansion tank to the neck of the radiator. Point this at the drain tub and also let it empty out. Once it's empty, get the garden hose and put it in the radiator. Then, with the water on slow, let it flush your system through. Always put a new copper washer on the drain bolt before refitting it to the pump. Torque it and refill the radiator. I've done a whole video on how the coolant system works, so I'll not repeat myself and I'll pop the link up here for you. Never tip your old engine oil or coolant down the drain or in the garden. Please take them to a recycling centre. Tyres. Something else Steve will tell you is what tyre pressures you should run. Steve knows best because, as someone who has been riding for 5 years, he has more knowledge than Michelin and Honda put together. They built the bike, so they know what is best. You'll usually find it written on the chain guard, but if not, check the manual. Phone the dealer or look online. Do not use any pressure that may be written on the side of the tyre. Assuming you put the size of tyre on your bike that the manufacturer recommends, no matter what brand of tyre, you should use the pressures the bike manufacturer says. So, ignore the tyre, ignore Steve, and go by what the bike says. Never pay to have nitrogen put in your tyres, as there is already 78% of it in the air we breathe. Let me give you an important tip. No matter how tempting fitting a tyre that will do 20,000 miles may be, never fit a car tyre to your bike. Only Steve is stupid enough to do this. Chains. Steve says I should lube my chain regularly with a spray-on chain wax on both sides of the chain to prevent wear on the sprockets and keep the rollers lubricated. Once again, Steve's getting it wrong. There is nothing wrong with spraying your chain, but it will not keep the rollers lubricated because that is done at the factory and sealed in. Wear on the sprockets will happen whether you lubricate your chain or not. The only reason to lubricate it is to stop it rusting and ensure that the O and X rings don't dry out. Next time you buy a chain, read what they say you should lubricate it with. Probably an 80W90 gearbox oil. That is what the Scott oiler systems use, with added blue dye. I'll put my chain cleaning video up here for you. Just clean your chain regularly and recoat it with gearbox oil and it will remain in good condition. Brakes and spark plugs. Not normally two items that are mentioned in the same paragraph. But what I'm going to talk about is copper grease. Steve says you must put it on your brake pads to prevent squeal and on your spark plugs so they come out easily. He says this is because his dad said to do it and his dad before him. This might have been true 100 years ago, but today brake pads have anti-squeal shims, which is the thing copper grease was previously there to do. If you read the information the pad provider gives for their pads, you'll see it says do not apply any grease. The same goes for spark plugs. These have anti-seize coating on the thread and therefore don't need any grease, but don't tell Steve. The theme of this whole video is to do what the manufacturer says, not Steve. This also goes for some YouTube videos that aren't always right, no matter how convincing they are. You know you liked it, so tell your friends. Thank you for watching and please share me around. I do love reading your emails and comments, so please keep them coming. I'll see you next time here on Biker Stuff.